Chapter 25, Hungry. Why did Lin Nuan bring the child over so late?
Lin Nuan allowed himself to calm down before asking, "What happened to make you bring the child so late?" "Tuan Tuan wanted to come see you." Lin Nuan looked towards the little person standing next to her, all well-mannered and cute. Lin Nuan was afraid that Tuan Tuan would get cold feet because he was only wearing socks, so she picked him up and placed him on the seat. Since she had never had male guests, she had not prepared any slippers for the men. She found a pair of pink women's slippers for Tuan Tuan and placed them under his feet. The slippers were still too big for Tuan Tuan, but they had to do. Tuan Tuan's gaze followed Lin Nuan, seeing her bend over. A few strands of wet hair fell from her forehead and he wanted to use his chubby hand to help Mom put them behind her ear, but he was afraid it would be too sudden, so he spoke softly with his pretty voice, "Mom, your hair." Lin Nuan looked up and smiled at Tuan Tuan, tucking in her wet hair and asked with a gentle look, "Do you want to drink some milk?" Tuan Tuan nodded happily. Lin Nuan's gaze went to Fu Huai'an's feet and she realized that Fu Huai'an's well-polished, handmade Italian shoes were openly walking on Lin Nuan's light brown carpet. Lin Nuan's mouth twitched. Fu Huai'an was worse than a child. Even Tuan Tuan knew that taking off one's shoes when entering someone else's house was basic behavior. "Mr. Fu, would you like some tea or plain water?" "I don't have any freshly ground coffee here." Lin Nuan subconsciously thought that Fu Huai'an must be someone who was particular about the small details of life. He should prefer to drink freshly ground coffee. Instant coffees were probably not up to his standards. Lin Nuan had plain water, as well as some tea leaves that Liang Mulan had brought earlier. This should be acceptable to Fu Huai'an. Plain water. Fu Huai'an spoke with indifference on his face. Lin Nuan turned to the kitchen to pour water for Fu Huai'an and milk for Tuan Tuan. Tuan Tuan's short limbs leaned on the sofa to throw his jump down. With the oversized women's slippers hanging on his feet, he stumbled behind Lin Nuan, as if he could trip over the slippers at any moment. Lin Nuan gasped in shock, and she carried Tuan Tuan into the kitchen. Tuan Tuan was so happy that his ears turned red. When Lin Nuan opened the refrigerator, Tuan Tuan stood by her legs and lifted his head to look at her, the cold air from the refrigerator slightly cooling his heated ears. His big eyes were glued to Lin Nuan's refrigerator. He was a little hungry. Lin Nuan took out the milk and poured some into the small pot to warm it up for Tuan Tuan, before pouring a glass of water for Fu Huai'an. Gruesol. Lin Nuan distinctly heard the sound of Tuan Tuan's stomach rumbling. Tuan Tuan was instantly embarrassed, his soft little face turning hot. Seeing Lin Nuan turn to look at him, Tuan Tuan's chubby hands surrounded his stomach as if she wouldn't be able to hear the sound of his stomach if he hid it from her sight. Gruesol. Tuan Tuan's little stomach didn't give her a face and continued to rumble even louder instead. "Are you hungry?" asked Lin Nuan. Tuan Tuan nodded his head. Lin Nuan put down the glass of water to reopen the fridge. Fortunately, under Liang Mulan's care, Lin Nuan's fridge was constantly filled with fresh food. Lin Nuan placed Tuan Tuan back on the couch before passing the plain water to Fu Huai'an and pouring the heated milk into a glass for Tuan Tuan. The milk was at the right temperature and Tuan Tuan grabbed the glass of milk with both hands, taking a few sips. When he heard Lin Nuan ask him if he wanted to eat noodles with eggs, he looked up at Lin Nuan with a milk mustache around his lips. Holding out his little pink tongue to lick it, he squeezed the glass and replied, "Yes."
Chapter 26, When Lin Nuan was 17 or 18 years old. Why did Lin Nuan ask for a bowl of easy-to-digest noodles?
Tuan Tuan answered firmly, even though he had no idea what the egg noodles mentioned by Lin Nuan looked like. Seeing that Tuan Tuan was really hungry, Lin Nuan decided to prepare a bowl of easy-to-digest noodles for him. Looking at Fu Huai'an sideways, she asked politely, "Mr. Fu, would you like a bowl too?" As for the egg noodles, Lin Nuan thought that her cooking skills would be enough. Even though they were about to receive their marriage certificate, but the way they interacted. They were extremely distant from each other, especially the polite ways in which Lin Nuan called Fu Huai'an. Fu Huai'an looked at his wristwatch. Since it wasn't very early anymore, he had always been used to having dinner, and idly wasn't here today. Fu Huai'an, whose taste buds had been trained to be picky, had indeed not eaten anything that night. After Lin Nuan's request, Fu Huai'an became interested in those egg noodles. Sorry to bother you. Fu Huai'an's words were polite, but his tone didn't convey the same thing. It was as if this was how it should be. Lin Nuan knew that it was because Fu Huai'an was used to having a higher position. His tone was a habit and not specifically directed at her. Please, said Lin Nuan, already turning to the kitchen to get ready. Fu Huai'an looked at Tuan Tuan, who was obediently holding his glass of milk, and asked, "Do you know what egg noodles are?" Tuan Tuan shook his head, but he still looked happy. In the kindergarten, his friends always showed the good food that their mothers prepared for them. This was the first time Tuan Tuan ate food prepared by his mother in all the years of his life, so he was really happy. No matter what it was, Tuan Tuan would surely love it. Lin Nuan took out some tomatoes, eggs and greens from the refrigerator. From where Fu Huai'an was sitting, he could see Lin Nuan fussing in the kitchen. Lin Nuan tied up her still wet hair and rolled up her sleeves to reveal her thin arms. She handled the fresh vegetables with familiarity, washing them under the tap. The warm light of the kitchen reflected on the water that dripped on Lin Nuan's pale and thin hands. They were particularly pretty. A girl's house is always decorated in a warm way, unlike Fu Huai'an's house, which had simple patterns and decorations. The color scheme was simple and soothing. At Fu Huai'an's, except for Tuan Tuan's room, which had more colors, the whole house had a quiet and dull atmosphere. It was as if Tuan Tuan couldn't see enough of Lin Nuan's house. His big eyes wandered everywhere. Even though it was clearly bedtime, he was still energetic and excited. Seeing a white cat bed placed on the balcony, Tuan Tuan rushed to it, his little hands leaned on the window looking out. The cat bed, cat litter and toys were all carefully placed on the balcony. Fu Huai'an brought Tuan Tuan back and made him sit on the sofa quietly, his own gaze resting on the photo frame in the corner. In the frame was a picture of Lin Nuan, at the approximate age of 17 or 18. Lin Nuan was holding a gray British shorthair cat in his arms, smiling happily as the gray cat seemed to laze around. Its eyes half squinted as it lay comfortably in Lin Nuan's embrace, its tail lazily falling on Lin Nuan's arm. Fu Huai'an involuntarily picked up the frame to look at it carefully before returning it to its original place. Probably because of the long wait, and also because he had just drunk a glass of milk. Tuan Tuan's eyes were getting tired. He rubbed his big eyes as he leaned against the back of the couch, thinking that he was going to rest a little, just a little before he could eat the good food that Mom was preparing.
Chapter 27. I open my arms to you. How many little ladies have we arranged so far?
The sound of the kitchen extractor fan could be heard, sounding like a lullaby and putting Tuan Tuan to sleep even more. A phone started ringing from the living room as Lin Nuan was putting the unwashed tomatoes in the water. She looked up to see Fu Huai'an taking the call, a cigarette in the corner of his mouth. When he bent down to pick up a lighter from the coffee table, the outline of his broad back muscles showed through his tight shirt. He walked to the balcony and closed the sliding door, his back to the living room as he lit his cigarette before casually pocketing the lighter. Lin Nuan realized that she had been staring at Fu Huai'an's back for a long time, and she looked down, her ears warmed. Her phone, sitting silently under the lamp on the corner table, showed no activity. Who would have thought that Fu Huai'an's ringtone would be the same as Lin Nuan's, Mendelssohn's Rondo Capriccioso? In the balcony. Lu Jinnan's voice rises on the other end of the line. "Old Fu, when are you coming?" It's rare for Tang Jing to come back from overseas. You'll lose if you don't join us for mahjong. Tang Jing was Fu Huai'an's childhood friend just like Lu Jinan. The three of them grew up together like real brothers. Since Tang Jing went abroad, the trio rarely had the opportunity to get together. Today, after leaving the Lin family's house, Fu Huai'an went to the party to welcome Tang Jing. Halfway there, Tuan wanted to see Lin Nuan, so Fu Huai'an brought the child. Lu Jinan had put on the speaker and Fu Huai'an could clearly hear the sounds of mahjong tiles. He pulled the cigarette away from his lips and pressed his thumb to his temple, saying, "I'll come by later." Old Fu doesn't send his kid, he sends himself to that lady's bed. Bullshit, old man Fu's belt is well buckled. How many little ladies have we fixed up so far? Even if they used all their strength, they couldn't get it off. Some friends teased Fu Huai'an jokingly. Since there were no women, the men talked without caring. Can they be the same? It's Lin Nuan, the moonlight of old Fu. Old Fu's belt towards Lin Nuan should be, "My front door is always open and waiting for you, we'll understand each other after a ride, you'll love it here." Lu Jinan changed the lyrics and shamelessly sang a verse, causing huge laughter on his side of the line. After smoking a cigarette, Fu Huai'an hung up the call and entered the living room. Seeing Tuan blink slowly and eventually fall asleep, he took off his suit jacket and placed it gently on Tuan, his movements careful. Looking up, Fu Huai'an's eyes reflected the busy back of Lin Nuan, who looked so thin. Fu Huai'an straightened his body and unbuttoned his sleeves, placing his watch on the small corner table above the Lin family register. In the kitchen, the pot of boiling water on the stove made a noise and Lin Nuan hurriedly turned down the heat, a pair of chopsticks in hand. As she turned to add a bowl of water, she saw Fu Huai'an enter the kitchen. Their eyes met and Lin Nuan was shocked for a moment. After all, Fu Huai'an, in her formal attire, looked out of place in this rather small kitchen. "Do you need anything?" she asked. "I came to help." Fu Huai'an was quite tall and his legs were long. Once he entered, the entire kitchen seemed much smaller. Lin Nuan even felt like he was having trouble breathing. He slowly and naturally rolled up his sleeves, bent down to wash his hands before taking out a few pieces of paper towels to wipe himself. Turning around, he managed to squeeze Lin Nuan to the side. Lin Nuan watched Fu Huai'an pick up the noodles she had placed on the side. He took out some noodles and placed them in the pot in a practiced manner, holding out his hand and saying, "Chopsticks."